Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's event. My name is Leslie Reckler, and I'm president of the Bayside Council of PTAs. The Bayside Council of PTAs is the umbrella organization that supports the 30-plus PTA units in West Contra, Costa, and John Swett Unified School Districts. Among our many functions, we teach advocacy, leadership, and financial literacy skills, and act as a financial and paperwork clearinghouse for our units. We also host forums such as this, and believe it or not, PTA has hosted this candidate forum in this neck of the woods for over a decade. Let me briefly go through your packet. Right here. First, you have an invitation to join PTA, right here. Finally, we've joined the 21st century. Many of our units are on this platform, and you can join right here tonight while they're talking. Next, we have a link to Contra Costa elections where you can look at candidate financial statements. And finally, at the bottom, we have some questions from the League of Women Voters. On the back page, we have a handout from Next 10. It lists all the ballot positions of well-known nonprofits, newspapers, unions, and political parties. And you also have this candidate statements from the voter guide. Let me introduce our moderator. We are so pleased tonight to have Heidi Hernandez-Jarvis join us. Heidi is the 32nd District PTA Vice President of Legislation and Education. This past spring, she presented the 32nd District's PTA's resolution improving and stabilizing school funding to the California State PTA Convention, where it was resoundingly adopted. Heidi is the principal at Small Brown Girl Consulting, where her practice focuses on nonprofit infrastructure and organizational development with a focus on art and social justice organizations. Before I turn it over to Heidi, we will circulate pencils and index cards. Flag us if you'd like one to ask a question, and we'll run it up here to the front of the room. And now I will turn it over to Heidi.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Bayside Council of PTAs, and thank you all for your participation in this evening. I am briefly going to go over the format of the forum for the evening. Obviously, with 11 of candidates, there is a lot of ground to cover, and there's a lot of really critical issues surrounding our schools these days in California. So our format is going to be to ask a question, to give each candidate about 90 seconds to answer. At the end of what we estimate will be about 4, maybe 5 if we're really lucky questions, we'll allow our candidates to do a 1-minute closing statement. We'll kind of skip jump so that we'll give a chance, not quite for everybody to go first and last, but to kind of go through the order a little bit. Our candidates are seated alphabetically. Please feel free to use those note cards. We received well over 70 questions from the community via email. So we've tried to consolidate and choose some big themes and some big ideas to dig into with these candidates. So with that, please join me in welcoming Liz Block, Vanessa Calloway, Anthony Caro, Val Cuevas, Patricio Dujan, Tiffany Grimsley, Michael Gonzalez, Stephanie Hernandez-Jarvis, Madeline Cronenberg, Consuelo Lara, and Carlos Taboada. Candidates, thank you so much for your time and your energy. Let us begin at the beginning with Liz. Please share one of your priorities for the district and tell us how you would use your position as a trustee to make it happen.
Okay, sorry about that. Well, my biggest priority for the district is academic improvement. We have drastic need to improve the academic level of our students, not only the students who are below grade level, but the students who are performing at level and going on to we look at the list of merit scholars and the other awards that we get in the Bay Area, and we should see our high schools up there with the number of students, just like we see the other areas. But right now we have a crisis with our achievement. Only, I believe it's 11% of our Latinos and African Americans are performing at standard in math. That's unacceptable. Only 25% of our African American and Latino high school graduates qualify for admission to UC. So how would I do this? I would, first of all, we need to focus more of our time on the board on academics. School boards that spend more time on achievement have higher achievement within their district. In addition to that, we have to set criteria for checking milestones and progress quarterly with the school district, or with benchmark testing. I'm sorry for going over the time.
Right.
Is that more time you're giving me?
No, that is your overtime.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't get to the how till the latter part, but it's an important, very important area.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Of course. Please share one of your priorities for the district and tell us how you would use your position as a trustee to make it happen.
Thank you. So one of my priorities, it actually coincides with the second. So the academic achievement gap, but that can't be tackled unless we provide coaching and the necessary tools and professional development for our teachers. And so currently we have only 30% of our third graders reading at grade level. And so that's something that I feel that needs to be addressed. However, coaching has been reduced in our district, and I think that being a trustee, I would help include more coaching and more professional development for our teachers and staff to give them the support that they need so that they, within their toolbox, will have what's necessary for all the students in their class. Because as Liz said, everyone isn't below the achievement gap. And so making for sure that they're equipped. And I think with having teachers that are equipped will also help eliminate burnout. It will help decrease the achievement gap that we're now seeing within our district. And so as a trustee, I will help implement different programming, one being the coaching program to give the teachers what they need, the support that they need, so they in return can give the support that our students and family need to decrease the achievement gap. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anthony Gatto, and one of my top 3 priorities is ensuring all of our students are college and career ready. Currently in our district, you could receive a high school diploma and not qualify to go to college, UC or CSU, because our requirements don't match up. At some of our high schools, only 30% of our graduates are actually qualified to go to a UC and CSU. How do we expect our students to be ready for the 21st century if they can't even have the option to go to college? So as a board member, I would ensure that we implement policy to make sure our graduation standards match the UC and CSU requirements. Now, this won't happen overnight. This will be phased in, starting with our current 8th graders so that way they have that heads up. Secondly, I want to ensure that our students are not just college ready, but career ready. We have a few amazing programs in our district where students could learn digital arts, where they could learn mechanics, where they could learn welding now at Kennedy High School. And I want to expand these programs so that our students have a full sense of all of their opportunities. I want to have more career fairs, more college fairs. Going back to college, I've talked to a few college counselors who are asking, what is your biggest need? And right now, it's capacity. When you have one college counselor for 400 students, it's very hard for that counselor to reach every single student and check in with them. By implementing a peer mentorship program, we could take the top performing high school students and ensure that they help the college counselors by making sure all the other students are on track by checking in with them, going over the SAT deadlines, going over college application deadlines. I've seen these programs work in other districts, and I think we need them here.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Valerie Cuevas. I'm currently serving as your school board president. I just want to thank the PTA for hosting us tonight, and I want to thank the candidates for being here. This is probably the last time we'll all be together, and I know we'll have separation anxiety afterwards. I do want to say that I think I want us to all, the most important thing for me is to remind us as a school board leader what it was like to be a kid. If all of us can think back, what was it like to be a kid, to be in school, and what we needed? And what were the magical things that happened while we were in school? How many of you remember those instances where you were introduced to some new kind of content, a new subject, and you were struggling a little bit? And a teacher came along, a staff member came along, a reading instructor came along, and unlocked what that concept was, and you got it. And what did it feel like when you got it? That moment when that light bulb went on. Oh, I got it. I know. Oh, I know how to get there. I know that concept. It makes sense. That's what I want to make sure we replicate over and over and over in our schools. That's my priority, to make sure we have more of those magical moments where kids get it. No matter what kind of student you are, no matter what you're struggling with, no matter what your strengths are, the bottom line is how we build on the assets of our schools. The way I think we can do that is, number one, we do need to look at the achievement gap, but the only way to address that is through resources. So there's 3 ways I think we can address this issue. One is we need to make sure all students are reading at grade level. And we need to make sure everybody understands what does it mean to be at grade level. How do parents understand that that becomes a tool? There are other ways, and I'll talk about sending more dollars to school sites later. But I hope this is the beginning of a conversation. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Patricio Duhan, and I'm running for West Contra Costa School Board, as you know. Thank you for hosting the Bayside PTA, and thank you for everyone for being here. I think we need to change the culture across all of our schools. When you look at the data shows that we have a long way to go. And I do commend Superintendent Duffy for laying out an ambitious 2022 goal where we're going to change that data. We're going to change that to 80% of third graders reading on grade level. Today, it's the opposite. 70% of third graders are not reading on grade level. So I love having a long-term goal, but we need, as a school board member, I would focus on what's the plan to get there. I don't want to wake up in 2021 with we didn't get there and now we got to extend the deadline further. So for me, a big focus is working with staff, working with principals on changing the culture at schools. Too many schools have a culture where we're accepting failure and we're just moving students along, whether they're reading or doing math on grade level or not. So we need to change that to have a culture of academic success. We need to change the culture so we can retain our teachers. We are giving our teachers a raise, which is great, but it's not just money that keeps people at their jobs. It's also a culture of success and a culture of seeing students having those light bulb moments and growing. So for me, a big focus is culture, and I would work with the staff and the superintendent to really focus on that and to really flush out the plan that is really a roadmap right now, 2022, to have much more detail.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Grimsley. I'm very happy to be here this evening, and I'm happy to see so many of our concerned citizens out this evening to listen to us as candidates. Building community is one of my primary focuses in this, in my role as school board member. And I think that we really need to work together. Right now, we sort of build ourselves in camps, families here, students here, teachers there. And I really think we need to bring ourselves together. And we need to wrap ourselves around this common thing about academic success and advancing our students to be college and career ready, as Anthony Caro spoke to. What I would really like to do is work on building a pre-K through college pipeline. I spent 15 years working for the University of California, 8 of those as an assistant director for admissions. And looking at it from that side of the board, I didn't see enough of our students from West Contra Costa being eligible for admission at the University of California in Berkeley, not only Berkeley, but within the UC system. And that's got to change, and we need to start planting the seed early. We really need to start talking about college and career at the earliest levels of education. And we need to prepare our teachers to be able to provide the kind of education that our students are going to need. We need to partner with colleges and universities and also with our nonprofit organizations, our business community. We really need to make a larger community effort to support our teachers and support our students.
Good evening. I'm Michael Gonzalez. In 2002, there was a significant achievement gap, one that has never or rarely been spoken of. It was the achievement gap between the United States of America and 47 other countries. We were 48th out of 50 countries on earth in terms of students at grade level. In 2002, we were graduating 9% of our students at grade level nationwide, all students. After 10 years, it went from 9% to over 2/3. What happened? What was developed was a system where you looked at a school district through the lens of 8 essential practices, and you changed your practices to match what research showed would prove success. In this district, we've looked at the symptoms and not treated the core. As a board member, what I would do is direct the superintendent to hit the pause button on his 2022 plan and look at the plan through the lens of successful districts that have altered their practices that were similar to this practice, similar to the demographics of this district. So it's essential that we look at the high leverage and essential actions of our district and develop a coherent and equitable plan that provides teachers and students with a reasonable chance of success.
My name is Stephanie Hernandez-Jarvis, and I'm here as a parent, as a public school teacher, and, as an advocate for our kids. I'm teaching because I care about kids, and I chose to be in the classroom out of all the other career options I could have done, because I truly believe that education is the greatest equalizer we can have here. And in West Contra Costa, I've really come to know this place as a place that is full of power and full of potential. I believe that our #1 priority should be teacher retention. How can we build consistency? How can we build safety if we don't have the teachers staying there? I have a little daughter that's about to be 3. If she goes to school and then she has a sibling who goes, 4 years later, 5 years later, I want to have that consistency so that I can engage as a parent and know the teachers and staff at that school. I think we need to retain our teachers by supporting them beyond a paycheck. A paycheck makes a huge difference between, being able to rent somewhere where you want or buy a place that you want, but also consistency so you don't burn out. You need to have supports built in so that you can learn from other colleagues who are experienced and who have been proven to be effective leaders at your school site. We need to have a peer-to-peer support program for our new teachers so that they can learn from experienced teachers at each site. We need to provide those supports so that our teachers stay and don't leave to other districts, and so that they also don't burn out and they give it their all, day in and day out of the classroom. It's tough to be a counselor, to be a psychologist, to be a nurse when you don't have those staff there and you're forced to wear those hats. So I think we need to support our teachers so that they can grow and develop and be effective in each one of our classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm delighted to be here tonight. Thank you to the PTA for putting this on, and it's wonderful to see so many faces, even faces I knew when this was Portala many moons ago. I'm Madeline Cronenberg. I've been on the school board since 2006. The most important issue, the issue I'm going to speak about is in fact teachers, the teacher shortage and the teacher retention problem we've had in our school district. I believe that our biggest problem has been that our teachers have turned over, and we have a percentage of teachers that were unable to stay more than 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. We've lost huge numbers of teachers. So we addressed it by raising our test scores. But I think the other thing we really need to do, we need to give supports to everybody in the classroom so that they will stay. But I think we need to grow our teachers. Other districts have been successful by starting education academies in our high schools, where our young people learn that being a teacher is one of the greatest jobs you can have. I did it for 30 years. I have 3 children who are teachers. I am a firm believer that it is the greatest career you could possibly go into. And I want to share that with our children in our district so that they come, they learn, they stay, they grow, and our school district becomes the place where people want to teach and learn.
Hello, my name is Consuelo Lara, and I am a retired teacher from this district. I retired from Hernandez Middle School. Before that, I also taught at Richmond High for a couple of years, and when I first came here, I taught at Juan Crespi. One of the things I experienced at Helms, I remember this was years ago when I came in, we were the fewest number of students who were being reclassified. And it was a high poverty area. It was very, there were a lot of challenges there. We became, took a few years, but we then became the school with the highest number of students who were being reclassified. So I can tell you exactly what we did. I can tell you what the teachers did, the processes that went through, how we got support from our site administration, how we got support from our district level. So I consider myself the teaching and learning candidate because I know what it means to get success, and that is my academic success, and that would be my number one priority, is getting us to that academic success. It took teamwork, it took professional development, it took collaboration, and it took the knowledge of the support and process that it takes in order to get the best from your teachers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Carlos Taboada, and I'd like to thank the PTA for holding this event. This is one of the best attended forums that we have been to, which tells me a lot about this community, an empowered and interested community. My first priority is this. We are in a very peculiar district. We have a very good ear, very good eyes to pick out, select the programs that have been successful in other parts of the country. For example, we have endorsed the full-service community school model because it has been proven successful in other places. In Austin, Texas, after 5 years of implementing this full-service community school model, they were able to increase the percentage of college-ready graduates by 37%. Okay? Now, we have adopted a similar objective, but we have made one serious mistake. We have only endorsed the program. If elected, I would fully implement this program by selecting a pilot program, making it into a pilot program of elementary, middle, and high schools, and turn each one of those schools into a full-service community school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to our next question, and we're going to start with Val Cuevas for this question, and we will continue to move forward. The achievement gap we've discussed a little bit tonight, but particularly for African American and Latino students in the state of California, is still a huge issue in education. According to the recently released SBAC scores, the level of achievement here in West Contra Costa is actually declining for our African American students. What will you do to address the growing achievement gap? Where will you start?
Well, I think one of the most important things I hear from parents every day is what happened when we transitioned to the Common Core. I mean, how many of you were like, okay, how do I help my kid with Common Core math? Okay, well, imagine that not only are you struggling, but there are a set of parents out there that are struggling who historically may have been underserved to begin with by our schools and might have a harder time helping their students as well understand Common Core math, which are now the assessments that our students are being challenged by. I do think that one of the most important things that we can do is recognize that, one, we can't ever lose sight that all of our kids have innate potential to succeed. You cannot shake my firm belief that every single one of us has the capability to learn, and that if we figure out how to make our systems right, that we'll be able to have outcomes. Our students, I think in particular, need specific supports depending on what their needs are, and that means understanding what are the interventions that will help them. One of the things that I know is very important for our district is we have 10,000 English language learners. You have 5,000 reclassified English language learners. That's 15,000 students. That's half our school district. And we know there's a whole set of research that indicates what are the ways we support those students. For African American students, we rarely talk about it, but the adoption of practices that will help around standard English development is important as well. And the reason why I say English and literacy is important, because you can't do math anymore without have strong literacy skills. I know these are all complex issues, but the experience that I bring to the board means that we're going to have to make choices on how do we support and accelerate success, and how do we put dollars where it matters most. Thank you.
For the achievement gap, I mean, we have to focus on what matters most, what matters in schools, and for me, I call that my North Star. Any decision, any vote has to include the lens of, is this best for students? Is this best for the classroom? I'm a former teacher. I taught in elementary school and in middle school in inner city. I taught in Newark, New Jersey. And I needed professional development to understand the needs that the students had, the different culture, and unfortunately some of the trauma that students were facing, just like the trauma that many of our West County students face. So we need to focus and make decisions on what's best for the classroom. I would also advocate bringing in research-based professional development. Right now I'm a national education leader working across the country with schools, superintendents and school leaders as they turn their schools around. And I know it can be done with a focus and with the right plan. So we need to bring in research-based practices. And on the subject of mathematics, 90% of our 6th grade African American students are below grade level. So that's it's a terrible statistic. So we need to focus on that, and we need to make sure that we're bringing in the right professional development for teachers. The Common Core, as Val said, have come in, and many of our teachers did not learn math the way they're being asked to teach math. So there's a huge disconnect there that we have to focus on and really help teachers transition to that style of instruction.
Educational equity is incredibly important in, we're talking about addressing the achievement gap. We need to address the needs of all of our students, and we need to address the needs of the individual student, and we need to address the needs of the whole child. We're serving 30,000 students in this school district. We're serving students in very disparate communities. We're serving students in Kensington, El Cerrito, Richmond, San Pablo, El Sobrante, Pinole, and Hercules. All of those communities are quite different, students in those communities have different types of challenges, they have different types of lifestyles, their at-home support may be very different depending on where they are. We have single parents that are working 2 or 3 jobs that can't offer the at-home support that some 2-parent families that can perhaps afford after-school care or at-home supports in addition to parental support. So we need to provide support not only to the schools, not only to the child, but also to the families. We need to partner with organizations that address academic achievement and work with them. There are many nonprofit organizations in the Bay Area in existence that can do that. Our university, the University of California, has programs we can partner with on a large scale throughout our district and make this achievement gap go away.
What do you do to close the achievement gap for African American students? The districts that have done it have done 2 things. Number 1, you take the social emotional program that are required by the state that they be at every site, and you blend them into the English language arts time frame instructional time. The second thing you do is you treat the language needs of the African American students as if it's a second language that they're learning, and you use academic language development time to do that. Now, having said that, it's also important to incorporate within that core instruction a parent outreach component to it as well, because what you want to do is to blend the academic language experience of the African American child at school and at home. And the districts that have done that have shown remarkable progress. It's not rocket science, it's actually more difficult. It's more difficult because you're changing the way a child talks to themselves, you're changing the way the child feels about themselves, and you're also changing the way the parents speak to them as well. When that happens, academic success is a byproduct. Otherwise, how else would we explain the Renaissance period right after the Emancipation Proclamation? It can be done. It is being done. We just have to follow the examples of others.
At Stewart School, where I work, we have the Mapanikyo after-school program, and this year we actually haven't been able to start it. We will start it until after the winter break. And it's Mapanikyo means success in Swahili, and it's essentially a program that's geared towards our African American students and to provide STEM activities, performing arts, and language arts enrichment after school. And it's free of charge, and it runs until 6. We need programs that are geared like that towards helping to close the achievement gap and the opportunity gap, because these are opportunities that all our kids need, and when we see a need, we need to tackle it and dive right in. We also need parent outreach early on. The first 3 years of life are pivotal to a child's brain development. We need to make sure that we're helping to do outreach for every single parent, every single household, Latino and African American, to make sure they're getting what they need early on before they even enter kindergarten. I teach kinder, and I know when students have a successful preschool experience, they're able to come in a lot more ready than when they haven't had those supports early on. So I believe that having after-school opportunities are the way to go, as well as having representation in the classroom by having teachers of color that represent the students who they're teaching, and having books that represent that too. We are not in a colorblind society, and we should not have colorblind learning experiences for our kids. So we need to have educators that represent them, as well as literacy and books that represent our kids. Thank you.
This has been a struggle for us and for many other school districts for a very long time. The issue is we need to make sure that our children are raised to a level of equivalence, equity. So we need to make sure the teachers that they have in their schools, that our teachers are prepared to address the gap and to address the issues around the gap. And the issues around the gap are many, including being trauma-informed. Our teachers need to understand that the homes that our children come from. So one of the things we can do and have done in the past and need to reinstate are home visits for our teachers, so that they actually are able to go and visit the homes where there is where the gaps are most prevalent. In addition to that type of a program, we need to be able to make sure that we have community services in each of the schools. And sometimes we miss that. We were able to put community services in some schools that have larger Latino populations, but not as much in our schools with the African American population. And the other thing is we need to elevate the programs and the committees of reporting to the same level that we have for other parent groups. We need to make sure that our African American parents have the same opportunities and the same kind of recognition that the other subgroups have. I think we haven't done a good job of doing that, and that's for a lot of reasons, and we need to do it.
Yes. At Helms, I remember we got this extensive culturally responsive training in the summer, and we got materials around it. When the child's culture is different than that of the teacher, you have issues here. You have to talk about the culture of teaching and learning, and also that teachers need to have high expectations of these children of color. And how do you approach that? We also had a grant where we were able to do the home visits. And that was, in addition to that, we did community mapping so that teachers who come in from another city to come in to teach, they don't know the surrounding area. They don't know what the community is like. And so that was something that was extremely useful for them. So it's going to take academically rigorous intervention in order to make that change of bringing those, having more academic success. But professional development is really important in that the teachers understand how this student learns, they understand the community, and they understand the family that they're coming from. Thank you.
Well, we have had the achievement gap for many years, and we will continue to have an achievement gap for many more years if we do not change the way we are doing things. To begin with, the achievement gap should be more accurately called the opportunity gap, okay? Because that's what it reflects. A lack of enrichment opportunities, a lack of academic opportunities, a lack of social, emotional health services that our lower income students do not have. So I go back to the previous question. I think the solution is the full implementation of the full service community school model. Not simply the endorsement of that model that we have done, but fully implemented. select a family of schools where we can, yes, I'm not afraid to say it, experiment. Scientifically experiment. Pedagogic is a science, and we should not be afraid to experiment and try out different methods, different techniques. The achievement gap begins at the starting gate in preschool, and we see results when we have our students graduating with only 40%, a little bit less than 40% of our graduates college ready. Many of them really, they graduate and they are unable to enter a pre-apprenticeship at any union. So I suggest, and I would propose, the full implementation, not simply the endorsement. Thank you.
The first thing we have to do is recognize that we are failing this group of students. And they have every reason to have given up on us, as have their parents. And a lot of the teachers have probably given up on the system for being able to be supportive to them and helping these students, because we haven't had enough training and cultural awareness. We should be doing that every year. That's not been done in years in this district. But the most important thing we need to do, first of all, is to look at other districts who are succeeding with students of color. There are a lot of them, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to go to the other districts and see how they're doing and replicate what we can here in the district. When I was a principal of a turnaround school, it was one of the lowest performing schools in the state. It was in Bay Point, California. And we raised academics by giving strategic interventions for all our students, for improving our parent relations, and for giving teachers more time to work together as professionals, learning from each other, observing each other. We need to also have students more involved and doing evaluations of their teachers in high school.
Thank you. Being an after-school coordinator as part of my position currently, one of the things that I do, and it's making a difference in the Latino and African American students that I'm working with, is shadowing. So it goes back to the home visit. When I worked at Perry's, we did home visits, and it made a tremendous impact on the students that we worked with. So what I do currently is to bridge the gap from our after-school program of the residents that live on site and their schools. And then I communicate the information of the shadowing to the parents. And so it helps with that disconnect, because there's a great disconnect within the school and the family. So to help close the achievement gap, I believe we need universal preschools, LCFF funding, community schools, supportive after-school programs, RTI, restorative justice, cultural competency, implicit bias training for all staff, personnel recruitment, and the retainment of Black and brown teachers for our students. They need to see those that look like them. They need to see those that can relate to the issues that they may be dealing with at home. Someone that looks like them and can understand them. Sometimes we as adults, we know how to take off the hats that we wear, many hats. Our students don't necessarily know how to do that, and a lot of our students within our district is dealing with trauma. So math and reading is one of the last things on their mind. Survival is. So we need someone that can understand that and translate that into a learning environment for our students.
I like the incumbents. A lot of them are my friends, so I hope they forgive me for saying this, but I don't trust any of them right now. On everything that they just said, they had 4 years to implement that, and if you look at the SBAC scores, test scores have actually gone down while they were on the board. Now, I'm not an expert, but I study experts. And there are 3 things that we need to do in this district. The first thing is implement universal preschools, because it's a shame when our students are falling behind at 5 years old because they didn't have that early childhood education. The second thing that we need to do is, starting in kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, we need to make sure that we pull the students out that are falling behind and give them the intervention that they need. You heard the statistic. Roughly 30% of our third graders aren't reading at grade level. That doesn't mean we should jump in at 3rd grade. That means we need to jump in at kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade. What's going wrong there? The third thing that we need to do is provide tutoring after school for our middle school and our high school students, so as soon as they start falling behind, we have somebody there to work with them. Now, if somebody asks, well, where's the money going to come from? We have so many people in our district, parents, grandparents, that would love to volunteer, but guess what? In the district office, if you call right now and you say, hey, I want to volunteer, they just give you a badge, that's it. They don't tell you, hey, this teacher needs you over here, math class, 3 p.m., can you be there? They don't tell you, hey, they're working on a science project over here at noon, can you be there at this school? We need to ensure that we have a place for our volunteers to come and support our students. These are the 3 things that I'm proposing we do, and I've been pushing for these things even before running this campaign, and I'm going to continue pushing these things afterwards.
Thank you very much. A reminder, I think you guys have gotten here now, that we have enough microphones for once for all of you, so if we can keep one on every table, we'll be able to keep things moving. We're going to be starting with Michael for the next question. The West Contra Costa County School District has made significant efforts to engage families. These efforts have not always succeeded in helping parents feel truly empowered to be advocates for their children. From your perspective, what have been the most successful engagement efforts, and what would you do to foster deeper connections between parents and the school district?
Parents play a very vital role. I should know that. My wife is here. If I don't answer this correctly, I may be in trouble. But the role that they play begins before school starts. And the success of a school district is determined by how it engages the parents to engage their students before school starts. So in many schools where you see turnaround, they'll have a dress policy. And the dress policy is designed to involve the parents. But you have to have an understanding of what is actually being advocated with that particular dress policy. What I would say is that in this particular district, what we need to do a lot better job of is something that Anthony just alluded to. We need to have a system to engage the parents in a meaningful way that provides both educational opportunities for the parents as well as opportunities for them to use that education in support of their own kids at their own schools. So we have to have an effort that's similar to the effort that we use to engage substitute teachers, where there's a clearinghouse, there's an opportunity to determine what the specific needs are, provide the training to the parents, and then provide parents with the opportunity to use what they've learned at the specific home school of their own children.
The first part of the question was to answer what parent engagement or outreach strategies there are working successfully. At the moment, I'm a parent with a child who will start preschool in a year and a half, and I have not had any parent engagement or outreach done for me specifically, and I'm also a teacher. So I think our district lacks that. I think we need to have more parent engagement, advocacy, and training programs to really have parents be partners with teachers and support our kids in the classrooms. I believe that we need to have authentic programs for parents, have them schedule ahead of time so parents who work multiple jobs can really schedule around that and be present for the workshops or trainings they want to be at. We also need to engage our parent volunteers. We say that we don't have enough money to hire more people to be in the classroom. Well, how about we train our parents to be volunteers that can be there reading tutors with our kids? We need to maximize the social capital that we have if we have a really limited budget. At the same time, I also think that we need to get parents and kids excited about going to college and exploring post-secondary studies by having early outreach and early field trips to school campuses to explore their academic interests, to explore their career interests. We need to have that early on, not when they're in high school. Career and college fairs are great when they're in high school, but it's also a time when there's a lot of other social stress going on. So for many kids, when they're reached at that age, they're kind of like, between like, I need to get a job right now to make ends meet, or I can think about it, in advance if I'm, reached at a younger age. Thank you.
Parent engagement has always been a struggle for this district. And I've been an engaged parent here since the 80s, which is a long time to stay engaged. It's been a long time. But I got engaged through PTA. right? And our most successful parent engagement has been the Parent University, which we have been offering at a number of schools, more and more schools. Actually, I think our district is one of the districts in the state that offers the most. Parent University has had the most success with graduates from Parent University. So that's been a big positive. I think the other thing we've done that's really been successful is Writer Coach. Writer Coach is a program where people get to come in and volunteer and get trained. My husband was a volunteer as a writer coach. My husband's an attorney. He normally would not have chosen to volunteer in the classroom because he wouldn't feel comfortable knowing what to do. Writer Coach has put hundreds of people, community members in the classroom with very specific roles and training. And I think that's the kind of program we need to expand. We've had enormous success with it. And that's our parent volunteers. When I was a teacher, what you need is to have a strong communication with the folks who are volunteers, so that they know what you want them to do, and they know, and you know what you're able to do.
Yes, thank you. I think that engaging families is something you really have to work on and build. It started at Helms. We did home visits. We've had coffee clubs, Parent University, as well as PTA, which was for the Latino parents. And it helped them to learn strategies to help their child at home, but also how to be an advocate at the school. So it built some leadership for them so that they could participate fully in things like school site council. And, you know, there were times I knew families that were dealing with survival. So to me, the parent involvement, if that child came to school on time, well fed, homework done, there was a place where they could study at home, I felt that's a lot of parent engagement. And sometimes that's, you know, what they could achieve. I was happy with that. At Helms, we ended up having a huge parent center, where at that center, our teachers used to go to the parents and ask them for help, like, you know, tutoring for a student, or, you know, ask them to come into the classroom, or we want to organize a celebration, or we want to go on a field trip. I mean, these parents, we depended on them, and they were very, very active. And I remember that. I don't know if it's still there, but I do remember a very strong parent group.
Well, how to engage and empower families. Well, let me tell you a short story. When I was teaching in high school, I was teaching in a bilingual program, and we noticed that the California Partnership Academies had come into our school, and that they had systematically excluded all English learners from their academies. So a group of teachers organized a program, an academic program. We called it Computer Skills for Career and College. We developed this program by talking to the students, talking to the parents. And let me tell you what empowered those parents. Before we even presented our program to the administration, before we even brought it to our school board, we called the parents to our school for a meeting, and we first presented our academic program to them and asked them for feedback and criticism. They felt empowered. I'll give you another instance. This happened many years ago. But it's very important because it shows you that parents respond when you know who they are and what they want, and they know that you are able to work for them. Many years ago, when they passed that act of cultural aggression, that's what I call the California High School Exit Exam, we called parents, and let me tell you, 2 or 3 phone calls, and we had over 40 parents in our school. We helped organize, and we had one of the most successful demonstrations at the school board. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to give a list of things that I think we should do. First of all, we should ask parents what's wrong and how we can improve our relations. Ask parents what good relationships with the school look like, how they want to be involved, what that means to them. We need to do a good needs assessment of where we are. And we need to also talk to the school and see what does having good parent relations in the school look like to the school. We might be trying to do two different things. We need to realize the value of parents. When parents have the ability and time to be involved, they can make a world of difference. We need to treat parents with respect when they come to school. When they come to the office, we need to treat them politely. I've been in districts where we did customer satisfaction training in the office. There's always some offices that are really good at that and others that aren't. So we need to empower parents. I agree so much with what Carlos said. So mostly though, it's respecting parents, asking what they want, making them part of the solution.
Thank you. I believe that we should first identify the need and have clear expectations of what the parents actually feel that they need and they want. So once they become volunteers, there should be a training for our volunteers to see what is their 10, what are they good at, in what area can we use them most that's most beneficial for our youth and for our teachers. Also, actually not waiting until election time to actually get in the community and reach out to parents and have those important conversations. Things like this should be an ongoing thing because we have parents coming in and parents going out, so things change throughout the school years. And so building those relationships, you have to communicate and you have to get from behind the table and get out into the community. We have over 175,000 voters within our district. It's so many people out there waiting to hear from the board trustees and what it is that can be done in our school. So actually building those solidified relationships, not just to get a vote, but actually because we actually care for not only the student but for the parent. Because when we're in early childhood development, we're taught to service the whole child. So it's not just educationally, it's physically, it's socially, emotionally, and so that includes their parents, that includes the environment that they're coming from. And so even with the after school that I'm doing now, we've invited the teachers to come out before Thanksgiving to meet with the families and have Thanksgiving, a pre-Thanksgiving dinner. So getting outside of the box and bringing them in.
If you ever look at my handout, I don't have any tonight. If you look at my handout, the second bullet point is improving community engagement and outreach. And this is a huge issue. For those that aren't aware, I run a nonprofit organization in the district called Citizens Power Network, where we teach high school students the importance of civic engagement and voting. This is a real example. Last year we were having a fundraiser, and I went to different school sites asking if they could put our flyer on their website. I went to Kensington Hilltop. They were like, right away, we'll put it up. Apparently, they had 5 parent volunteers. Each day of the week, a new parent volunteer would come in and update the website. I see some smiling faces. I'm wondering if you're one of the volunteers. The same day, I go to Richmond High School and make the same request. They don't do that. Their website is 3 years outdated, and it turns out that their assistant principal is the one that does that there. So how are parents supposed to keep up to date with what's going on in the school if they can't even go on the website? Second example. El Cerrito High School got a new principal over the summer, and they asked parents and community members to come and ask, what do you want to see in your new principal? They had almost 100 community members show up and give suggestions. That prior week, Kennedy High School also got a new principal. There was no ask from the community members. There was no, what do you want to see in your principal? So when I asked the director of community engagement, he said, oh, we assumed no parents, we assumed there wouldn't be any parents coming out. These are systematic things that are preventing community engagement in our district, and we need to fix this.
Can you repeat the question for me real quick?
Yes. The question is, from your perspective, what have been the most successful engagement efforts, and what would you do to foster deeper connections between parents and the school district?
Okay, thank you. Well, I think without a doubt, one of the most successful ones has continued to be one that has always been successful, and that is our PTA. I mean, just look at tonight how many folks are out here. And I think one of the issues becomes, how do we find ways for parents to actually plug in according to what your needs and your schedule is? How many of you are working parents who go to work every day, and you trust us to drop your children off in the morning and pick them up in the afternoon, and you want to be informed? PTAs and partnerships with PTA are very important. We have a very strong partnership with our PTAs. We've actually expanded the number of PTAs in our district, and we have a parent university that happens through the PTA. But those are all conventional. What about parents who are working every day? How do we reach them? How do we make that happen? I'm happy to be part, and while yes, I will get criticism, because as Theodore Roosevelt said, I've been a contender. I'm in there, I'm getting dirty, I'm rolling up my sleeves trying to address the issues, and I'm going to get criticism for it. But I've been serving you as hard as I can, and that is to make sure that, number one, you have somebody who loves your children as much as you do. Nobody needs anything more than to care about your kids more than you do, and have people want to care about them who aren't you. You need to trust us that we will care about your children. And that's what's been difficult for us as a board, is that you have people with multiple agendas on why they want to be on a school board. And I'm just one vote. But since the minute I've gotten here, I rolled up my sleeves and I said, I'm one purpose, and that is to serve kids and families. And how do we put that first? Now, if we will talk more about how to hold me accountable to that, and I'd be happy to have a conversation. Thank you.
So I would argue that from a district perspective, not much has been working. I'm a parent. I have two daughters in public school. One's in 6th grade, one's in 1st grade at Washington Elementary in Point Richmond. And my wife and I kind of have to fight to find out what's going on. So I would say that not a lot is working. And I don't see a coherent plan. Tonight shows it, and it's been mentioned how many people are here, thanks to the PTA and thanks for hosting. Another forum that was really well attended was the West Contra Costa Parents Council. So these are community groups, and there are others that engage with parents on a regular basis. So I'd like to see a coherent plan that includes the efforts that the school district can make and the partnerships that we can establish with community groups. It doesn't cost any money, but it just really has to be a coherent plan. The school district forums, as an example, as a parent, I got a robocall like that afternoon that there was a forum that night. Not really easy to get to and change your whole schedule, but other groups are much more able to engage parents and have a much greater showing. So I think we need a coherent plan that addresses all of the different needs. I talked about working parents, parents that work in the evening, but we have to listen and have a plan that makes sense to make sure that we have engagement. And then I've also seen in other school districts have academic family nights. So another successful practice is family math night. And we've talked a little bit about the Common Core and how teachers teach math different. We could bring that to the schools to show parents how to engage.
So I'm also a parent with kids that have matriculated in the West Contra Costa Unified School District. I'm also a graduate of the West Contra Costa Unified School District. I grew up here in El Cerrito and attended schools in El Cerrito and Richmond. And some of the same disparities that existed when I was in school in the 70s and 80s still exist today. So this is another area where I think equity and opportunity are an issue. Things are easily accessible in some communities, or where there's greater community communication and greater access to the schools, and it's much easier for parents to be involved and engaged than in communities where that doesn't exist at the same level. As a parent, I've been very involved as a volunteer. Volunteered as particularly with my youngest child, because I've had an opportunity to be a stay-at-home parent for periods of time, and volunteer at the school, to even work for the district for a period of time as a yard supervisor and an instructional aide in the classroom, and sit on the school site committee and all of those things. But they were all on an independent effort level. They're because I sought them out, because I was asking questions. But the working parents don't have the time and opportunity more often than not to do that. And when I talk to other parents, I hear complaints about things like, well, I get a robocall I get a call at night if my child misses class or didn't dress for PE, but I don't get a call about a meeting, or I didn't get an invitation to participate on school site committee.
All right, this will be our last question before our closing statements. And we're going to start this question with Consuelo. You have all identified needs here in the West Contra Costa District, from collaboration to professional development, full implementation of programs and curriculum, social emotional learning. You've also spoken of a recent and necessary teacher salary increase. How do you propose to fund the improvements you've identified tonight?
Yes, and I do understand that there, in the future, there's but some budget cuts that are going to be coming as well. And so I think it's important that the place where the cuts happen are as far away from the classroom and the teaching and learning, as far away from that as possible, so that that can continue and be successful. But I can't help but say, you know, we are losing a lot of money to the charter schools, and hopefully we won't have to have that continue, and we can at least have some stability with our budget. And it does take a lot of effort in order to do that. So balancing a budget can be very difficult, I think. And how are we wasting money? What about consultants? What about places where we don't need to be spending that much money? I think it's important to look at those things as well. Thank you.
Well, since I am not on the board yet, I cannot really give you any specific and detailed proposals as to how we should save money. But there is a lot of waste in our district. Some of the items have already been mentioned here and there. Excessive amount of money spent on consultants. I think, if, from my point of view, a staff that we really don't know what they do. Our high school programs have been outsourced to the Academy's foundation, so I really don't know what people in downtown do, since they come with a prescribed curriculum. But I would say two things. First, cut our losses and be aware of what is happening, because we're already losing a great deal of money. But my own estimate is the subsidy that we give to the charter schools is $30 million a year. Think of how many teachers, counselors, services we could use with that money. We're losing it. And we seem to be totally indifferent, oblivious to that fact. So we should be aware of, first, that we are losing that money. Secondly, I would change the job of our school superintendent. I think he should, by the amount of money that he gets, I think that his main job should be a fundraiser. He should be a full-time lobbyist in Sacramento and in Washington. He should be required to bring into a school 3 or 4 times the salary that he makes every year to our school. Thank you.
Well, it was extremely important that we gave the teachers and other staff members a raise, but now one of the most important things that the board has to do this year is to balance the budget, because we have a $10 million shortfall that we're going to need to make up for. And we can do this, but we have to be very serious and single-minded about it. However, even with the cuts, I believe that we could have more money to spend on the programs that we're talking about. First of all, improving attendance. When students aren't in school, we don't get the ADA for them. It's almost like they're not even a student in our system when they don't come to school. With 95 or 96% attendance rates in the district, we could recoup a lot of finances by bringing up that number, even by 1 or 2 percentage points. We need to reduce the amount of money we spend on lawyers, consultants, secretaries of the district office. I hate to call them secretaries, they are assistants, but we have too many of them. It's sort of an old-fashioned system that we have. So there are a lot of areas that we can cut in, but let's start with building the basics from the classroom up, not from the district down.
I agree with the cutbacks on the outsourcing, but I also think that we should reconsider Proposition 13 reform. Before we were number 1 in per pupil spending, now we're number 41 in the nation. And the reform would raise an estimate of $11 billion for education and approximately $6 billion for TK through 12. So I really think that we should reconsider Proposition 13 reform.
I was thrown off. I thought I still had a minute. I proposed quite a few things between the very first forum and now. And out of all of them, the only thing that costs money is universal preschools. It doesn't take money to recruit volunteers to run websites. It doesn't take money to recruit volunteers to run after-school tutoring. I believe in small solutions that have big impacts, and that's what I've been pushing for. I'm 21 years old, and I just became a homeowner, and I looked at what my estimated property taxes are going to look like, and I want to go back to renting, to be honest. If elected, I'm going to be inheriting this big, we haven't even talked about the bonds yet, I'm going to be inheriting this big issue. El Cerrito High School gets a $3 million football stadium, a $100,000 AV system, when some of our schools still aren't seismically safe in the district. Does that make any sense to you? And this is poor leadership. It might not have been this current board, it might have been the one before that or the one before that, but we need to elect somebody who knows what they're talking about. I've done research into what other districts have done when it comes to prioritizing their money. The budget should be prioritized for the classrooms. Everything else comes secondary. We hired a consultant for one of our DLCAT meetings. You know what their job was? To hand the microphone to the different people speaking. We paid somebody that much money. About 20 people showed up. We had 100 full-color, nice paper quality copies. 100. Why aren't we adjusting our means to what we to where we are currently? Instead of looking at the budget and saying we funded this last year, let's fund it this year. Let's look back and say, where do we need to make cuts this year? Where's the money not necessary?
So you're going to choose 3 people to vote for. I hope that you'll make me, Valerie Cuevas, one of them. And this is why I think it's important. One is, this is a 2-year term that we're running for. Anybody you vote for here is only going to serve for 2 years. We have major issues to address in our district. We want to continue on the trend that we have been on, but you need somebody who understands what our budget has been the last 4 years to be able to spend the next 2 years. But if I'm getting criticized for not doing anything in 4 years, we need somebody who can get right on to the issues in the next 2 years. And I think that I have that experience because I've been working hard the last 4 years to make sure we focus on what matters most, what's happening in the classroom. On top of that, the issue around sending more dollars to school sites, I absolutely been fighting for that. You all, proximity matters. Have many of you heard that issue, proximity matters? You matter here in this district to tell us at your school site, what are your needs here at this school site? And the other 51 districts, proximity, the schools' proximity matters for them too. And so I've been fighting to make sure we do that. Third of all is to recognize that one of the only things I really have control of as a school board member, nobody's mentioned it because I wonder if they really do know. And that is I have one direct report, the superintendent of schools. I have no power to go fix schools. As a matter of fact, the school board members who go try to meddle in the day-to-day practice, how many of you would like that? I know what my role is. I've been a strong leader, and I'm ready to spend the next 2 years addressing the issues that are going to make sure we put our kids first. Thank you.
So when it comes to the budget, I'd look what I call a return on instructional investment. We're making a lot of different investments in the school district, and we have to measure if those investments are paying off academically, if they're impacting students or they're not. So I would increase funding for those programs and those priorities that are having a positive impact on students, and I would cut back or just get rid of programs that are not being effective and are not showing results. So that's one way that really allocate resources in the best way. The best way is what matters in the classroom and what's best for students. I think another area to look at is, I've talked about reading and how 70% of students are not reading on grade level. That has a cost. That has a cost on too many students are designated special education because of reading issues. And if we address that, we're going to be able to save money on special education costs, because that's a real expensive way to manage a lack of reading. So once we really address the reading issue, many of the other knock-on effects go away because we're able to allocate resources in a much better way.
So Val mentioned that the school board has one direct report, and that is the superintendent of schools, and that is absolutely correct and accurate. But as a school board, we also have the responsibility to be caretakers and good stewards of the resources. We also have the responsibility of influencing positive change and addressing the needs of the schools at the school sites through the way we run the school board, I think is critical. I think we have the opportunity as school board members to influence, to have to give greater voice to the needs of the teachers, the needs of the parents, the needs of the community, the needs of the concerned citizens, and most of all, our children. Our children have to continue to be our #1 priority, and our spending has to reflect that. Their education, their academic performance is critical because they have to move beyond the K through 12 system into college and beyond. A undergraduate degree now is equivalent to what a high school diploma was when I was graduating from high school. It's as simple as that. Even if they choose not to go to college and move directly into career, they need the educational level of a person ready to attend college in order to be able to take on any real career position. So that's where we need to spend our dollars. And in terms of paying for things, in my last 4 seconds, we can take advantage again of the things that don't cost money. We can partner with others to do that.
Could you repeat the question, please?
You have all identified needs here in the district, from collaboration to professional development to implementation of programs and curriculum. You've also spoken of the recent necessary teacher salary increase. How do you propose to fund the improvements you've identified tonight?
So, in my experience, I have worked in 25 different districts that have turned around. That is, they went from poor student outcomes to better and improved student outcomes. I worked in over 100 schools in areas as diverse as the migrant camps in the Sierras, as inner city Los Angeles, Oakland, San Francisco, suburban districts like Brentwood and Oakley. I've worked in those, and never did they get more money at the same time that they were improving. And what we addressed is that money can sometimes hide your problem. The problem is they had broken systems. And in this district, we have a broken system, which simply means it's incoherent. It's not the same. There's no equity. The reason why some children do better than others is because their parents have front-loaded them, have prepared them to go to school. And other parents don't feel as prepared to do so or don't recognize that that's their job. In this particular district, what I am advocating calls zero. It requires the will of the superintendent to step back from his plan, hit the pause button, and say, are there strategies in this plan that line up with the strategies of successful districts throughout the state of California? And in doing so, then you prioritize your spending based on what emerges from your look, your review, your audit of your own instructional system. What I'm advocating costs zero, but has a great return and has returned great rewards for other districts.
So I identified the priority as teacher retention. So how can we maximize what we need without using funds, that imbalance our budget? We need to maximize the capacity that we have to involve parent volunteers that are trained. We also need to partner with local and regional colleges and universities. And I really believe that we can have consultant services that are outsourced be insourced by our teachers. I participated in the teacher induction program as a facilitator for a practical approach to learning language through music this summer. And I was paid the hourly teacher rate, and I love participating in it because I got to know new teachers. I got to show something that I use in my classroom, and it was something that was not costly to the district. At the moment, we spend $22 in consumable goods a year for our students, like pencils, paper, things that are going to be used. That's 12 cents roughly a day, right? So if you think about that, we don't have a lot of resources for our kids at the moment. So how can we do with the limited funds that we have? We can partner with local nonprofits that donate these goods that we need so that we can maximize the capacity of our teachers and prevent teacher burnout. We can partner with AmeriCorps and have them read, have them come out to our classrooms. I used to work in the Santa Barbara Unified School District, in Icolita Union School District in Santa Barbara County, and that's what we did. We had reading tutors in every classroom, and that worked. So we need to have that here. We can't wait until after 3rd grade to have these interventions. And I think we need to maximize our human and social capital to get that done in a limited budget. Thank you.
Okay. I get to be the final answer on the budget. So there's 2 things you have to do. You have to cut your expenses and you have to bring in more money. All right? The way to bring in more money has been mentioned. We get our money from ADA. The most important thing we need to do is grow our attendance. The more attendance we have, the more money we're going to have coming in, which means we also have to be really conscious of losing ADA. And we've got the issues around our charter schools. So we have to be able to be competitive so that parents don't choose to go to the charter schools, and we also have to be able to work with the state to see if we can put a cap on charter schools. And the other thing that was mentioned as far as growing resources, and I have totally supported, and we've done a resolution on it, is the Prop 13 reform, where more money will come in from a split roll from the commercial part of the economy in California. So that's what will help us grow. The other part is with having more talented teachers and teachers staying longer, we're not going to need, those teachers can take on the roles, as Stephanie mentioned, to be able to take leadership roles that will make us not need these extremely expensive consultants that we've come to depend on in the past. So I think we can bring the cuts in there as well. And essentially, if we've done all of that, we should be able to live within our means.
Thank you all. We're going to start moving into our closing statements. We're going to begin with Vanessa. So as a reminder to our audience, each candidate will have 1 minute to wrap up with a closing statement. We'll go through, and I'm sure they would love the opportunity to speak with you at the end of this evening. So, Vanessa, let us get the timing right.
Again, thank you to the PTA for hosting us this evening. Again, I'm Vanessa Calloway, born and raised here in Richmond, California, graduate of the then Richmond Unified School District. I've worked with youth and young adults for over 20 years now, and I want to be the advocate, the voice. I want not only for us to hear our parents, but to listen and to implement what it is that they're asking for our future, which is their children. And so I'm a champion for our students, our families, and our employees. I've been on both sides of the token. I've been an employee of West Contra Costa Unified School District as well as a student. And so I hope that on November 6th that you choose me to be your voice, to be your advocate. I look forward to working with each and every one of you. Again, vote Vanessa A. Calloway, November 6th.
My name is Anthony Gatto, and I'm going to say something you're not supposed to say. This election has been a sham. The amount of money that has been put into this election has raised a few candidates and hidden the rest of us behind. And I don't think that's fair. Aside from myself, there are only 5 other candidates who have not received any backing from special interests. Vanessa Calloway would make a great board member. She works with our students every single day, and she's been in this district. She's worked as an after-school coordinator, lunchtime coordinator, was it? Well, she worked in the district, and she's somebody that we need up there. Patricio Dijon, not only was he a teacher, but he's a parent, and he's also worked with superintendents in districts all over the country, and that's somebody that we need on the board. Tiffany Grimsley, she was a UC Berkeley College admissions advisor, counselor, or something like that. She knows what it takes to get into college. Wouldn't that be somebody that we want on our board? Michael Gonzalez was actually hired by the state to turn around school districts. If he doesn't win board election and I do, I want you to be my superintendent. Carlos as well.
I think I'm going to go next. So it's been a pleasure to serve you the last 4 years. I'm only asking for one more term to finish the work that we've started. We've worked hard to try to stabilize our district. We have a new superintendent that we've brought on the last 2 years. We've invested more in our educators because we know that's important. We've started to listen more to what our parents are telling us and create mechanisms. And yes, even while some folks might not agree with it, I've tried to tackle the issue of money coming into our district. If you look up the East Bay Times and you look up something I tried to push was to put campaign contribution limits. We have unlimited campaign contribution limits on our school district, and I tried to pass that in our district and I got turned down at our board. So this isn't about me trying to find an advantage over anybody else. It's just me coming and telling you this is what I believe in. I believe in your kids. I believe in our district. I believe that we have an opportunity to create transformative experiences for everyone. And I have the experience to continue to lead us through this district and what are our challenges. And two, I also have been working in colleges. I work with funders. I have lots of hats. And I hope that you'll continue to give me the opportunity to serve you. Thank you.
Hi, good evening again. Patricio Duhana, and I'm running for school board because I know that we can do better. I know that we can turn this district into one where families move into to go to school rather than once here looking for alternatives for their students, be it charter schools or private schools. I will bring some valuable perspectives to the school board. As you heard before, I'm a father with 2 daughters in public schools. I'm a Latino immigrant y vine a los Estados Unidos hablando nada de inglés. And I came to this country speaking no English, and thanks to great public school teachers, I learned to read, and I was able to be academically successful and go on to have a career, attend UC Berkeley and graduate school. I also, as you heard, I'm a former teacher, middle school and elementary school in inner city Newark, New Jersey. And now, I've dedicated my life to education. I work with superintendents and school leaders across the country as they turn their schools around. So I want to bring those experiences and those valuable perspectives to the school board. I humbly ask for your vote.
I'm Tiffany Grimsley. Thank you for attending here tonight, and I ask that you consider making me one of your 3 choices for school board in this election. I want to thank Anthony Caro for doing my closing statement for me. I'll remind you that I am truly vested in this district. I grew up in this district. I was a student in this district. I'm a parent of students in this district. I've been an involved parent volunteer. I've worked for the school district. I have briefly taught high school at Berkeley High School. The bulk of my career was at the University of California, Berkeley, where I served as an admissions advisor for both undergraduate and graduate admissions, serving 8 years as assistant director of MBA admissions at the Haas School of Business. I think that is a critical perspective to bring to the board, and I think it's one of the values that I could add to the board. I also would let you know that I served as a budget officer with the School of Public Health, where I had to manage multiple budgets for 6 programs, and I think that's a crucial need here too. Thank you for considering me.
Again, my name is Michael Gonzalez. My grandfather was Robert Morris Simmons. He was born June 5th, 1865, the year slavery ended in this country. Before he transitioned, he earned a PhD in education. It took him his entire life. He never once imagined that anybody would ever hire him in Laurel, Mississippi to teach anybody anything. He just simply wanted to be an educator. That has carried on in my blood and in the blood of my children. It's deep for me, it's personal, it's beyond a vocation or occupation. And as a member of this board, what I would say to you is that we have a problem. We have an incoherent system that's not working for anybody. I don't care if your kids are getting straight A's at whatever school. The system is broken and not preparing them as well as it could. I will fix that.
My name is Stephanie Hernandez-Jarvis, and I'm originally from Ensenada, Baja California del Norte, Mexico. I came here when I was 10, and I was an undocumented immigrant until I was 18. I have a perspective that is that of a current public school teacher, of a parent that has a daughter who's going to be in the district for over a decade, of somebody who sees things through the eyes of disenfranchised populations. I'm here because I want to serve our kids, and I'm here because I believe that we can improve the lives of families and children by having access to a high-quality education in each classroom here. I also served as an English language development coach this summer and facilitator at the teacher induction program. I have also been the co-chair for the No Place for Hate group at our school, at Stewart School, and I'm also the chairperson for the SSD team at our school this year and last year. I wear multiple hats as a full-time mom, as a full-time teacher, and as a full-time daughter, person, wife. I wear multiple hats, and sometimes I'm exhausted, and I know at the end of the night, everything I do, I'm doing it for my daughter and for the children. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you again to the PTA. I think this has been a really good forum. I'm Madeline Cronenberg. I've been involved in the district since the mid-'80s when my children began their journey here, their education journey. I've also been a teacher. I taught for 30 years in Hayward. I won the Teacher of the Year award for adult education in the early 2000s. It is an extremely personal job, this job of being on the board. It's extremely personal to me that these children in our district who I've watched grow up over all these years continue to be successful and become more successful than they've ever been in the past. We have overcome so many things together. We've overcome the bankruptcy. We've overcome the recession. We've overcome all of the cuts that we've had to make. And this is an opportunity right now with our new superintendent to move forward and really show the world that we can be the district that we know we want to be. Please return me one more time. You can learn more about me at madelincronenberg.com.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all for having this forum. I always felt like this district has these golden gems all over the district that people don't know about. Exemplary programs, award-winning programs that people come from other parts of the country come and see and emulate, and they don't get a lot of publicity. So those are the kind of things that I would like for us to identify, support them, expand those programs, and duplicate them in other schools that need them. So there are these visions that I have about the school district because I've taught here for so long, and I can meet an adult who has kids and they'll say, Miss Laura, you were my teacher. And so I feel very rooted here. One of my visions is that we have homegrown teachers, that we grow them through our teacher academy. Oh.
Well, good evening. Thank you all for coming. My name is Carlos Taboada, and I have been a teacher and counselor in our district for 21 years. I got to know the strengths and the weaknesses of our district. I know that we have a very good, talented staff, teachers that love our children and are willing to learn. But let me tell you, teachers that want to be left alone to do their job. See? One of the slogans in my flyers is, let teachers teach. We want the autonomy that teachers in charter schools are supposed to have. We want to have the freedom to adjust our teaching to meet the needs of the students in front of us. Although I'm retired, I still talk as a teacher. The needs of our students, not the needs of whatever philanthropic organization or individual donated the $100,000 or $200,000 for this or that program. Thank you.
As a leader who represents a new direction in the West Contra Costa Unified Public Schools, my priorities have always been putting students first, restoring faith and trust in our school district, and preparing students for success in the 21st century. I've lived in El Cerrito for 40 years. I've worked in the public schools for 35 years. As a school psychologist, an elementary principal, and a district administrator. So I know what works and doesn't work in schools. It's clear that all the candidates up here really care about students and want to improve our schools. But I'm the only candidate who's turned around a failing school that's very similar to the demographics of many of our schools. I know how to do this work because I have done it, and I want to continue doing it here for you in West Contra Costa.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our candidate forum. I would like to thank all of the candidates for coming and spending a couple hours. I know that you have had many of these forums. I really appreciate your time. Please, please, please make sure your friends and family vote this November. I do not envy your choices of passionate, thoughtful individuals here. Thank you so much for participating tonight.